filled the Holy of Holies, that cloud of smoke, we are also surrounded in the sukkah. But why specifically the sukkah? What is it about the sukkah that brings out the idea of joy? So what really is joy? So we gave the parable of the son coming home and then the father making a celebration. What is the greatest way to bring out joy? Greatest way to bring out joy is with unity. When you're together. When people are upset, separated, divided, there can't be real joy. If you want to have real joy, it needs to be in a form of unity, coming together. You celebrate together. You make a party, you want to invite people, bring people together. There's one mitzvah that surrounds every single individual in that mitzvah exactly the same way. Which mitzvah is that? The mitzvah of Sukkot. The mitzvah of Sukkah. As the mitzvah of Sukkah, you are all surrounded by the Sukkah. And the Sukkah is uniting every single individual in there. You're bringing together. Now what really happens bringing together? What bringing together means that we are going beyond our differences. The more you become physical, the more different you recognize each other. When you start looking at each other by their personality, so it becomes more different. Then even more different when you start looking at their external being, their color and size and all these things that divide people. How do you come together? When you focus on the soul within each individual. And the more you focus on the soul and the spirit, the more you come together. So after Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when we were focused on our spirit, when we focused on our spiritual connection with God, so now we're able to express that and say, now let's celebrate that which we just brought about into reality. So Yom Kippur is a time that we are connecting to God with our spirit, or bringing out the soul. And we said that the ultimate connection of our soul happens when? When is the ultimate revelation of the soul? What do we say? At what moment? At the closing, right? At the Ne'ilah, which is the pinnacle point of Yom Kippur. So that's what we talked about, that the highest level of the soul is revealed at that moment. The highest level of the soul is revealed at the moment of the pinnacle of Yom Kippur, the Ne'ilah. The fifth level of soul, which is only revealed once a year. So now we just spent 10 days focusing on our soul. Now we could have real unity. Because now we really recognize what the essence of every individual is. It's not what divides us, but what brings us together. And what is that? Our soul. The soul within us is what brings us together. And so this is expressed with the sukkah. The sukkah, which is a mitzvah that is surrounding all individuals. And it's God, and represents God's protecting us, like the clouds of glory in the desert protecting us. It's protecting us now all together as a people. And that's one of the reasons why we celebrate Sukkot after Yom Kippur as opposed to after Pesach. Because essentially, when did God protect them really? They really protected them after Passover, right, when they left. There's other reasons as well, but that's a discussion on its own. Now let's take a look at the second mitzvah. What's the second mitzvah of Sukkot? Second mitzvah of Sukkot, we said, is what? Is the mitzvah to take the fruit. What is the idea of these different leaves? We just want to pick leaves. Why don't we take flowers? It would look nicer. Take roses. At least if we're already holding branches, it should look nice. You know, when there were times that I had to travel on Sukkot, I would take my lulav with me. And it's like this long palm branch, and you have the TSA looking at like, what is this guy bringing through? Who does he want to kill with this thing? Palm branches. And I never really had a problem with it. But what is unique about these? What's unique about these four species? Each of these represent unity in its own fashion. Palm branch every single leaf in the palm branch grows together. You ever notice that? Well, in the lulav, and the way it comes down later, they separate. But originally, every single one is two. You can actually separate each one into two. It's a united fruit. Also brought down the idea of the date. The myrtle is also a leaf that 3 leaves grow out from one spot. The willow also brings out the idea of unity, of how of how they grow in a brook together. Many of these together. But the most unity is brought out with the etrog. The etrog is the only fruit that can grow in all seasons. It's an all-season fruit, which is why it's a little bit shocking that they have such a shortage this year. But actually, each season actually brings out the fruit. So the cold of the winter, the autumn brings out a certain element of the fruit. The summer brings out a certain element of the fruit. It grows in all seasons. But anyway, so each of these fruits bring out an idea of unity, but a different sort of unity than the sukkah. The sukkah is a unity where you're taking everyone together and putting everyone under the same roof. The unity of the lulav is where you're recognizing the individual potential within each and every one and bringing them together. And that's why each one represents a different type of Jew. The lulav comes from a date palm. A date is a fruit that has a good taste but no smell. The myrtle is if anybody ever used the myrtle, a hadas, it's a very good smelling branch. And actually they use it in spices. Some people have a tradition that they smell it before Shabbos every week. And some people use it in the besamim after Shabbos every week. The myrtle. So it's a very good smelling branch, but it has no taste. The willow has none, and the hadas and the etrog has both. The etrog is a very unique fruit in that sense that it both has a taste and a very unique smell that can be used in perfumes and in all types of things. They actually use the smell of the etrog in different good smelling aromas.
It's interesting, that's my granddaughter's middle name.
That's right.
Hadas.
Hadas. Right, Hadassa. So what do these represent? They represent the taste represents the study, the Jews who study. The smell represents those who do many good deeds. Then you have the ones with none and the ones with both. And the idea is that you're taking all the individual qualities and bringing them together. Where do you bring them together? When we shake the lulav to the right, to the left, forward, up, down, back. But between each one, where do you bring it back to? Your heart. You shake it, bring it back to your heart. Shake it, bring it back to your heart. Shake it, bring it back to your heart. Which represents the idea of unity, recognizing the individual capabilities. And then you have even more so, where you're taking the lulav and you make a blessing inside the sukkah. The best place to make a blessing on the lulav is inside the sukkah, where you're taking the individual capabilities and bringing them all together. And this is the ultimate level of rejoicing. So we're taking the lulav, and we're taking the 4 species inside the sukkah for unity, and that is how you have the ultimate level of rejoicing, following this expression of our soul during the time of Yom Kippur. And then there's another element. Let's read text number 6. Rabbi Avin said, "This is the palm branch, like one who is victorious, holds a wand. What is this like? There are 2 who entered before the judge, but we do not know who won, unless we see one of them holding a wand in his hand, and then we know that he won. Similarly, Israel and nations of the world go into and contend with the blessed Holy One on Rosh Hashanah. We do not know who won. But when Israel depart from his presence with their palm branches and citrons in their hand, we know Israel came out victorious." Okay, so that is another idea of the lulav the idea of expression of the victory from the judgment on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So this is an expression of joy on Rosh Hashanah, and there are many on Sukkot, and so there are many ways that it comes about. This joy, we're told that that you should also have every night. You should have a simchat beit hashoeva, a joy of the drawing of the water, which was done every single night, and all kinds of celebrations done during the time of Sukkot, because Sukkot is the time of joy. Because going back to our original point, which was that when you realize that you have to come together, you bring yourself back, you bring your soul back, and you express your soul throughout the days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now we're going to have the party to make that celebration. Now we're going to have that party to really bring out what it means for us to be a Jew coming back home. And this is expressed on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now the ultimate is expressed on the second half of Sukkot. The second half of Sukkot is called Simchat Torah. But there's actually a day before that called Shmini Atzeres, correct? Shmini Atzeres is Simchat Torah. There's a day before that. You know what the day before that is called? The day before Shmini Atzeres? Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah. There's a fest. Huh?
What is the meaning of Hoshana?
Hoshana Rabbah means the big Hoshana. I'm going to explain it to you in a moment. The big Hoshana. Hoshana means the big salvation. The big salvation. Every single day in the temple on the holiday of Sukkot, and we do it in the synagogue as well, they used to circle the Mizbeach, the altar. And we go and we circle the Bima every single day, the day of Sukkot. On the day of Hoshana Rabbah, we circle the Bima 7 times. Again, connected with the number 7. There are 7 days of Sukkot, 7 times that we circle. And actually, when we circle, we say a verse in each one. Hoshana. It's called Hoshana Rabbah. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail. We don't have time to go into the detail of what exactly the traditions are for Hoshana Rabbah. Just in the temple, what they used to do is they used to take a willow, which was about 10 feet long, literally, and there was a special place that they would grow these willows. The whole story, how they would get these really long willows, and they would lay it alongside the altar. And then we also take on Hoshana Rabbah, we take 5 willows, we bang them on the floor. It's part of the rituals of Hoshana Rabbah. Now, many people don't know of this holiday so much because it's essentially a weekday. And not a weekday, but it's part of just the week of Sukkot. But in the Hasidic world, it's considered a very great holiday. Why? Because the Zohar reveals something very special about the day of Hoshana Rabbah. Let us read text number 7. The Medrash tells us that God told Abraham, if atonement is not granted to your children on Rosh Hashanah, I will grant it on Yom Kippur. If they do not attain atonement on Yom Kippur, it will be given on Hoshana Rabbah. Isaiah says, they seek me day after day. The Talmud explains that these 2 days refer to the day when the shofar is sounded, Rosh Hashanah, and the day when we take the willow on Hoshana Rabbah, the day when heavenly judgment begins, and the day when it concludes. So actually, what we think, most people think is, when do the gates of judgment close? Is on Yom Kippur. Actually, according to the Zohar, which the Zohar explains at length, it actually concludes on Hoshana Rabbah. The Zohar uses a term, a good, in Yiddish we call it a gute kvittel, which means like a good. A kvittel is like a good, like a little piece of paper. A good, like a good message. Kvittel.
Like a petek?
Kvittel, like a petek, yeah. Kvittel. So it's like a.
Maybe you have to have a Yiddish dictionary over here.
Whatever. The point is, we wish each other you should have a good note. In other words, that this is when your note is given into God. You should have a good note. The Zohar says that this is when we give our note into God to finish the the judgment.
That's
This is an Hoshana Rabbah. So actually the conclusion of the judgment takes place when? At the end of the holiday of Sukkot. After we've gone through the celebration and the joy of everything that was represented in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we celebrate that with the Sukkah. Then after 7 days of that, now we could really rejoice on Hoshana Rabbah. Do you want to say something?
Is that why they put a note in the wall?
No, that's
Something different.
that's something
And
else.
why do we say in Rosh Hashanah the book is open and on Yom Kippur it's sealed? It sounds like it's a
It is.
deal then.
It is. It is. But then you could also get your chances in. In other words, that's when that's when it's sealed in the first way, right? Going back to the verse of the Song of Songs, right? His left arm is under my head. In a sense of judgment, it's sealed on the day of Yom Kippur. But with rejoicing, we could still have an effect on that judgment. And actually, if you look in the back of the Tehillim, the book of Psalms, we have a Tehillim here. There's people have the custom that on the evening of Hoshana Rabbah, we say the entire book of Tehillim, the entire book of Psalms. Some people also say the entire book of Devarim, of Deuteronomy. But in the back, after each book of Psalms, there's a special prayer in the back, basically asking God to seal us for a good year. So, although yes, it does, Yom Kippur does represent that, but you have an extra chance in bringing that out. Again, not through solemnness and seriousness, but through joy, we're able to still reach that level on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now, where is the ultimate expression of this? The ultimate expression of this is on Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. What happens on Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah? Let's read text number 8. The culmination of the time of rejoicing is on Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. That is why our divine service in Simchat Torah is to dance with our feet. This expresses ultimate unity. For dancing together, all Jews are equal. So it brings out ultimate unity by dancing together. But what is the idea of Shmini Atzeret? What is the mitzvah of Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah? Do you know? Do you know what the mitzvah
Day that
is?
stops. There's something to do with stopping.
It's saying what is a mitzvah for Simchat Torah? Is there a mitzvah on Simchat Torah? Okay. So the answer is that there actually is not a mitzvah on Simchat Torah. There is no mitzvah.
It's a trick question.
But it was a trick question. But what do? We dance with the Torah. We dance with the Torah. And this has been a custom called hakafot, where we take the Torah and we dance around. And we express our joy. We express our joy by dancing with the Torah. The Torah is what God has given us. And we're bringing this out. The Rabbi Yossi, and this is a custom that only started about 1,000 years ago. The custom of the hakafot, dancing with the Torah. And what does this bring out? This brings out that after we went through Rosh Hashanah, after we went through Yom Kippur, after we went through Sukkot, and now we truly enjoy and appreciate what it means to be a Jew after this whole month, then how can you not get up and celebrate and dance? How can you not want to rejoice? Yes?
What's the difference between Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah?
Okay, it's a good question. Simchat Torah is the added day for Jewish people in exile.
Yeah, but it's the culmination of the reading of the Torah when we start all over again.
Right.
That I understand. And we express our joy that we reached that point and go.
Are you asking for a spiritual explanation? Or you're asking for a practical explanation in the difference between them?
Well, he's saying what happens on Shmini Atzeret.
There's got to be two connections. It's
Right.
Spiritual.
So Shmini Atzeret is the beginning of the holiday, but it still has a solemn element to it.
It has a what?
A solemn element to it. It still has a serious element to it.
All right.
And that is Shmini Atzeret. We say Yizkor on that day. Shmini Atzeret. We pray for rain on that day. The prayers for rain are on Shmini Atzeret. So while we still have the joy of the Torah, it's still in a limited way. On Simchat Torah, our joy is expressed in a more open, unlimited way, and that's actually when we actually conclude the Torah reading. And so, but in Israel, they actually have it both on the same day. Simchat Torah and Shmini Atzeret is both the same day.
They do it one day.
They do it all in one day. So the previous Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Lubavitch, after whom I'm named, he once said like this. He said, the Torah is so excited when it comes time to conclude the reading of the Torah that it wants to dance around, but it can't dance because it doesn't have the feet to dance. So we are the feet of the Torah. And this is like a beautiful metaphor that the Torah and the Jewish people are one single organism. In other words, you're not holding a Torah that's separate from you. You're holding the Torah that's really you. And that's why it comes out that we actually dance with the Torah on this time. And many people ask, well, if you want to celebrate with the Torah, so wouldn't it make more sense that we should read from the Torah, which we do read from the Torah, but that's obviously not the main part. The main part is the dancing with the Torah. But no, we read from the Torah, the 10 Commandments, on the holiday of Shavuos. That's when we celebrate the reading of the Torah. But again, this goes back to the idea of unity. How does this bring back the idea of unity? Because if you're going to open up the Torah and read, and that's how you're going to celebrate, then each individual, some people could read, some people can't read, some people read better, some people read worse, some are more knowledgeable, some less. When it comes to dancing with the Torah, everyone's the same. Everyone could celebrate in the same way. We could all dance and celebrate. There's no difference between us. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how much you can read, if you could read Hebrew, if you can't read Hebrew, if you know, if you don't know. We're all the same. And this is expressed in Simchat Torah. In Simchat Torah, we're able to take everyone together and recognize that we ourselves are nothing. So the foot, and the Rabbi continued on to explain about this idea. Let me just finish this idea about the previous Rabbi explaining that we're the feet of the Torah. He says, what happens? Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's like when your feet move, obviously someone that has healthy legs, when your feet move, you never have to go and tell your brain, okay, now I have to move my foot, now I have to move it this way, now I have to move it that way. It becomes natural. Feet moving is natural. After everything that we've gone through in Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, the celebration with the moving of our feet for the Torah becomes like natural. We're just automatically moving our feet. We don't have to think about it. Our brain doesn't have to tell us. It's like a continuum of the brain. It's something that's happening so naturally. So the idea that we're the feet of the Torah is recognizing that right now, my physical existence is irrelevant. All that's relevant right now is my soul and my soul's connection with the Torah. That's all that's relevant at this moment. That's all that's relevant here. And that's all that we feel. And so after we celebrate Sukkot, we come to that recognition. You wanted to ask something, Maria?
But before Yom Kippur,
Yeah.
we have Kabbala.
Yeah.
So, and we have to do also.
So what's the question?
And the question is that we have to do those just ritual.
Of course we have to do it before Yom Kippur. But what we're saying is that this is the ultimate expression of everything from Yom Kippur is coming out in the holiday of Sukkot and Simchat Torah. Again, I'm not telling anyone to not show up for Yom Kippur in 2 days and to just show up for Simchat Torah. But I am saying, please show up for Simchat Torah. Because Simchat Torah is the ultimate expression of everything that we could work so hard, sitting and praying and fasting for 24 hours straight on Yom Kippur. At Simchat Torah, we could just do it all with joy, with celebration. So imagine, go and explain to someone that you guys are only coming. This is why many people don't want to go to synagogue. Because all that they know of synagogue is going into Yom Kippur, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up. The rabbi is talking gibberish. We're reading Hebrew. We don't know what's going on. You want us to open the ark, to close the ark? What is this all about? We don't know what's flying. Imagine if the only thing that we knew as our childhood from Judaism was the celebration of Simchat Torah. Probably a lot more people would grow up much more warm to Judaism. But unfortunately it wasn't that way, for whatever reason it was. And so that's what it is. There was the previous Rabbi once wrote like this. He says, a Jew sits in his dark house, hungry with torn and worn clothes. His wife and children are weak and broken. His heart weeps within him for his family. In the middle of all this, he recalls that today is Simchat Torah, and rays of joyous memories flash within him like lightning. His spirit revives. He runs to the synagogue for hakafot. He hurls himself into the circle of dancers. He grasps the handle of the Torah scroll and cries out, "Rejoice and be glad on Simchat Torah." Not only the supernal angels, but also especially the lofty souls, the souls of tzaddikim, are jealous of this great self-sacrifice, the pure earnestness of simple faith. Such a Jew is dear and holy in all the world. We must go with such a Jew to hakafot and keep them in our mind, then will have an effect. And this is what's brought out with the idea of hakafot. Now finally, conclude. Let me just conclude with the story, then I'll take your question. Finally, can conclude with a story about a connection between Yom Kippur and Simchat Torah. There was in a small town in Russia, small shtetl in Russia, and back in the day they would have the parrots. They would have the parrots, who was the landlord, and he owned all the Jews' rents. And he would make them pay, and he would keep raising their rent. Now the only thing is, if you couldn't pay your rent, you wouldn't only be evicted, but they would actually take you and throw you and your whole family in prison until you're able to pay up rent. That's what they would do in the small Jewish shtetlach, in the Jewish communities. So there was this one particular situation where a family was thrown into prison, and there was a particular chassid that he wanted to get them out. But to get them out, he needs to raise the funds. So what does he do? He goes where the money is. Where's the money? You know where the money is?
Where the parrots.
Huh?
The landlord.
The landlord. Well, you got to get him the money. But how do you get the money to give to him? You go where the money is. The money is by the gamblers. That's where the money is, right? So he goes to a casino. And he wants to get money from them. So here they are, they see this old chassid walking in, and there's his Russian peasants, and he wants to raise money. How's he going to raise money? So they're all drunk, they're drinking in the bar. True story. I mean, I don't know if all the details exactly how it is, but yes, it's a true story. He goes inside, and they're making fun of him. And he says, can you help me? I want to raise money for my friend. So they're all drunk, and they say, okay, you want money? We'll give you money. We'll give you 100 ruble. How much do you need? Whatever he needed, 1,000 ruble. We'll give you 300 ruble if you drink this whole cup of vodka. So he had no choice. He says, okay, I'll do it. I'll drink it. He drank the whole cup of vodka. And they're all laughing and enjoying themselves. Look at this Jew drinking. He says, but I still don't have enough. They say, drink another one. We'll give you another 300. And they made him drink 3 cups of vodka. And finally, he drank it. He was dead drunk. Somehow he managed to get the payment over to the parrots, and he was able to get the family out. He could barely wobble his way in. And this all happened Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur. So here he is, completely drunk, Erev Yom Kippur. His wife sends him off to shul, but he is still under the influence. So he goes to the back of the shul, and he begins to lose track of what's going on, and he falls asleep, and finally he gets up and he sees the ark is open, and it's white and it's beautiful, and there's Torahs there. He says, it's Simchas Torah. He gets up and he starts dancing around the bima. He's dancing and dancing and dancing, and everyone's saying, what's this Meshugana? We're busy saying Kol Nidre, and he's dancing around the bima. And they all want to throw him down. And finally, the rabbi, it's told about different rabbis, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, or some people say about others, whoever was the rabbi then, he said, leave him alone. He's already on the level of Simchat Torah. He surpassed Rosh Hashanah, he surpassed Yom Kippur, the great mitzvah that he did to save this family, he surpassed everything. He went straight to Simchat Torah. So there are some Jews who could surpass Yom Kippur, and they may not even come to Shul Yom Kippur, but let's at least try and get them to come Simchat Torah to Shul. And so to Sukkot and Simchat Torah, these are very special holidays. So what I would say is to try and get as many of our friends to come to the Simchat Torah celebration on Thursday night, also to come eat in the Sukkah, at least one of the days of Sukkot, next Wednesday and next Thursday and Friday, where we're going to have services, and we'll have our Sukkah open to make a bracha in the Sukkah, to sit in the Sukkah, to make a blessing on the lulav, and then following that the celebration of Simchat Torah. So take the cards that you have that I put out with the Simchat Torah celebrations, give it to your friends and encourage them to come to Sukkot or Simchat Torah. For the women, there's going to be a special meal Friday night, Pink Shabbat, you'll be able to eat in the Sukkah. I'm going to stop this now.